Friends, welcome to our today's class. So, the concept of supply uh, we were learning in the previous 4 sessions. Today again, we'll continue with the same concept. There are various issues connected to supply concept. All of them are important. I'm going to share the screen with you right now. Just give me a moment. So the various definitions and the concept of supply, all these things we have already discussed with examples also. And after that, we have started analyzing the definition. So in the meantime, we have already understood or we have already analyzed the definition of supply. You know, supply includes supply for consideration in the course of furtherance of business. Import of services for consideration, even if it is not in course or furtherance of business. Supply without consideration also in certain situations shall be considered as supply. Then there are certain activities which are to be treated as supply of goods or supply of services. And it excludes certain supply, not supply, the definition of supply excludes certain activities, which is popularly called as the negative list. So all these things we have discussed. And in that context, we are also discussing the meaning of goods and services. What are goods, what are services, all these things we have thoroughly analyzed. Okay. And we also know that supply includes all these things: sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease, or disposal. One by one, we have understood the meaning of this term. What is the meaning of sale or transfer? What is the meaning of barter? Previous session, we have discussed all that thing. License, lease, rental, disposal, etc. And the definition of consideration was extremely important in the context of supply. Right. So we have already understood consideration need not always be in the form of money, and consideration also need not flow from the recipient of the supply. It can flow from the third parties also. Some of the examples we had discussed in the previous classes, right? And this chart or this picture also we are discussing that consideration is the payment in money or otherwise for supply. Consideration may come in the form of money or maybe may come in different form also. And however, you know, if certain deposits are made, that will not be considered as consideration. Okay. Till the time when the deposit is applied. If the deposit is applied for consideration, then that part of the deposit which is applied for the consideration, that will be treated as consideration. Okay. And may flow from the recipient or from any other person. Okay, but one more thing: the subsidy which is provided by central government or state government will not be regarded as consideration. Okay, so these concepts we were discussing. You also know normally the supply should be in the course or furtherance of business, but there are certain exceptions to that also. Okay, and to understand that meaning, we need to understand the meaning of the concept of course and furtherance of business. We need to understand the business, and this is what we are discussing in the previous class, that business includes trade, commerce, manufacture, profession, etc. Even if there is no monetary benefit, even if there is no commercial angle to that, this may be still treated as the business. And business also includes any activity incidental or ancillary to this activity. Let us say someone is doing the manufacturing activity, but certain activity is doing which is incidental to manufacture. That is also a business activity. It also includes any activity of the same nature, even if no volume or continuity. Let us say the person is not doing that thing continuously. Maybe some rare transaction it has done, 1 or 2 transactions are there, but still it can be regarded as business. Business also includes supply or acquisition of goods, including capital goods and services. So acquisition of capital goods are also business. But this capital goods and services should be in connection with commencement or closure of the business. That is also relevant. Provisions of facilities by club and association to its member for a constitution. That is also supply. Suppose the club is providing some facilities to its member and is charging some money, then that's also business. Admission for constitution. If admission into a premises is allowed on the basis of constitution receipt, then that is also business. Services as holder of an office. Okay, so if it is in the course or furtherance of trade and profession, some officer is providing some services, that is also business. Activities of race course, including by way of totalizer or license to bookmaker, or activities of a licensed bookmaker in such club will be regarded as business. Any activity by government, local authority, or public authorities, they will be also regarded as business. So business includes all these things. Hope this concept is clear. Okay, if you elaborate, then again we can again discuss these issues. So any activity or transaction which is incidental or ancillary to trade, commerce, manufacture, profession, vocation, adventure, wager means betting activity, or any other similar activity are covered under the definition of business. In addition, this activity undertaken by central government or a state government or a local authority in which they are engaged as public authority shall also be construed as business. For any trade, commerce, or any other similar activity to qualify business, frequency, volume, continuity, or regularity of the transaction is not a prerequisite. This means transactions may not be frequent. Transaction may not be voluminous. You cannot say it's a very small volume, so it's not a business. No, that argument is not acceptable. Or you cannot say that, you see, there is no frequency of the transaction, only one transaction has happened. It's not a business. No, that this explanation is also not acceptable. And business may not be continuous. Business may not be regular also. Okay, even if there is no frequency, no volume, no continuity, no regularity of the transaction, still the transaction can be considered as business. Okay, now give me the answer to this question. All of you, please participate. Suppose here is an example. Mr. C buys a car for his personal use and after a year sells it to the car dealer. My question is that, is it business? Can you reply quickly?
No, sir.
It's not business. Yeah. Can you tell me the logic?
So because if it is a like business, it should be continued, and like it is just a personal car which the person Master C is selling, and there is no regularity of income in one case also, we can say.
Okay, I got the answer. The answer is right, but I need a better explanation. First of all, you see, it is not continuous. That doesn't matter. Business can be done without continuity also.
But the
You are
income.
saying it is not regular. Regularity is also not regular. Your answer is right, but I want the argument. What is the right reason for that? It's not business. You're right. But what is the logic for that?
So this transaction will be held once, it will not be repeated in future also. So means like
But that is not necessary. No, you see, if you read it clear, you see the frequency, volume, continuity, or regularity is not a prerequisite. It's not required.
Sir, Mr. C is using that car for his personal use. That's why it's not a business.
Okay, you are close to the answer, but the better answer could be, if could have said that it is not in the course or furtherance of the business. Are you getting the point? So I want your answer should exactly hit to the reason. It should hit to the question. Okay. So if you say it is not in the course or furtherance of business, then okay. Then it is not a business, it is not a supply. But when you're trying to say it is business, you see the frequency, volume, continuity, even if this is not there, it can be still considered as business. Okay. Are you getting?
So can you give some example like of some business which is not like contain having this aspect like frequency or continuity, but it's considered as a business?
So let us say you have opened a jewelry shop. Okay. And throughout the year, you have only sold one piece of jewelry. Are you getting? So point is here is that is it business? If it is business, is it supply? Only one piece. There is no frequency. There is no regularity.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah. It is still business.
Yes, sir. But in the second year, so like if we are considering it as a business, like the transaction is happened only once, but in the next year, the seller is hoping to sell the product. So, sir, we are considering from that perspective as business. Then why not this one? If we are looking like in that manner.
This example which I gave you about this car.
Yes, sir.
Car, you see, the situation clearly says it's the personal use, but personal use, what it exactly implies? It implies that if you want to include something in supply, the definition says it should be in the course or furtherance of business. Okay. So here it has clarified. The moment it has said this personal use, the question has clarified that it's not in the course or furtherance of business. So that we should highlight. You are saying it is for personal use, that is right. But that's not sufficient. Okay. That's right, it is for personal use, but so what it is personal use? Personal use means it is not in the course or furtherance of business. That is what we need to explain. Okay, because the definition of supply has nowhere said that if it is for personal use, it is not business. Consequently, it is not supply. No. It has said if it is in the course or furtherance of business, then it is supply. Okay, so you have to say it is not in the course and furtherance of business. Are you getting the point? Okay, you can improve your answers like this. So we expect you to improve your answers like this.
Sir, if like the example of jewelry shop you gave, like in the whole year, the one product which was sold was not sold and was taken by like as drawings or like any other family member as drawings. So then what it will be considered as?
So your point is that supplier has, that means
Sir,
proprietor has withdrawn the money.
Sir, there is no seller, and sir, we are only the ones to take our products. Sir, then
Now I couldn't get the question. Question is that we are discussing whether it is supply or not. Okay, supply, you know, it may be sale, it may be transfer, it may be barter, something must have happened. Okay, in which you see if the goods ownership must have transferred. Ownership has transferred. Okay, only thing is that continuity is not there, regularity is not there, frequency is not there. Now we have understood this continuity, frequency, regularity, etc. are not relevant. So even if it is not there, still it will be considered as supply. Now thing is that if it is not supply, something else has happened. Okay, let us say you have kept it in your house, that is not a transaction. Okay, or you can say you have withdrawn capital. Okay, and that too you are thinking withdrawn capital not in the form of cash. Let us say you have contributed jewelry to the business and you're withdrawing it cash. Okay, so technically speaking, if you are asking a very rare type of question, if this thing happens, technically speaking, that will also constitute as supply. Okay, why it is constituted as supply? Now again, it is a transfer of ownership. Are you getting?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Oh, right. So try to refer the situation to the definition itself and try to analyze whether it will be supply or not. you will also be able to get the answer. Okay. Is it clear? So my point is that you are saying that car used for personal use is not a supply because it's not connected to the business. Your answer is right, but explanation is not up to the mark. It could have been improved. Got the point? Right. Now again you say, suppose this thing, car, she buys a car for personal use and after a year sells it to a car dealer. So naturally there is no regularity, there is no continuity. Okay. And it's also a rare transaction. But thing is that all this thing doesn't matter. What is more important is that it is his personal use. But the personal use, how it is relevant? It is only relevant because it is when it says personal use, it indicates it is not in the course or furtherance of business. That is what we expect you to highlight. Okay, friends. Now, tell me answer to this question, whether it is supply or not. Mrs. J sold her old gold bangles and earrings to JKL Jewelers. Tell me the answer with logic. Is it supply? Can you answer? It's supply or not? Are you getting me? Then look at the answer.
No, sir.
Again, no, but why it is no? Now again, tell me the logic why it is no.
So
Answer
because
is, it is
because it is also in the same as the same case before. Like here, it didn't happen in the further of the business.
okay. So what I expect you need to express this thing. It is not in the course or furtherance of business. Okay. Therefore, it cannot constitute as supply. Sorry. Okay. Now, but you see, these two situations, you see, these two things I am explaining, these two examples, the examples which you have heard it, exactly these are the two examples which are given in the FAQ released by our indirect tax department. Okay, they have explained on this logic, so we need to stick to this logic. So these examples are taken from the frequently asked questions which are issued by indirect tax department of Government of India. Okay, I'm coming to one more situation. This is one more thing. Since business includes vocation, you know the definition of business, vocation is also in. So therefore, sale of goods or services as a vocation shall also constitute supply. Okay, have you remembered the definition of business? Yes or no? Long back we have discussed that thing, but right now just remember that the term business includes profession as well as vocation. Now here is a question, or here is a case. You see, a famous actor paints some paintings and sells them. The consideration for sale is to be donated to a charitable trust. Tell me whether this sale shall be regarded as supplier. Can you answer? Can you guess at least? Can anyone answer this? Don't worry, even if answer goes wrong. Now, my question to you, is it a vocation? The painting the actor is doing? It's a vocation or no? Can anyone reply? If you conclude that it's also a vocation, then definitely it is also a business. So therefore, the paintings which are sold are in the course or furtherance of business. So consequently, what will happen? Is it supply or not?
Yes, sir.
It is supply. It doesn't matter that the sale proceeds are donated to a charitable trust. That doesn't matter. Okay. Consequently, the paintings of the actor qualifies as supply. Okay. Now, this question, all of you please participate. Okay. Some of you, can you read this situation? Read the case. Please read it out. Can anyone read it?
A resident welfare association provides the service of depositing the electricity bills of the residents in lieu of some nominal charges.
Is it supply or
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
yeah?
Yes, sir.
So yeah, now two comes in. Now two views are there. One, some of you are saying yes, some of you are saying no. Resident Welfare Association provides services of depositing electricity bill of the residents in lieu of some nominal charges. Okay, so it's a service.
Yes, sir.
It's a service, and question has given you one more clue: is that is some consideration also. Okay, and this service is also definitely in the course or furtherance of business, because that is the business of Residents Welfare Association. Or you can say it is incidental to the business of Resident Welfare Association. So consequently, we'll stick to the view, yes, it is supply. Okay, if you read the definition of business also, you know, the service provided by club or association or society to its member are treated as business supplies. Okay. Now you see, admission of persons to any premises for a consideration is also included in business. So therefore, services by way of admission to a circus, cinema hall, amusement parks, including theme parks, water parks, etc., are considered as supply, as these are services by way of admission of person to any premises for a consideration. So these are definitely supply. Okay, this part is clear. Now, as you know, the business includes activities of race course, including by way of totalizer or license or a license to bookmaker, or activities of a licensed bookmaker in race course. Okay. So this example here is that the Royal Toff Race Club is engaged in facilitating the wagering transactions of horses placed through totalizer. So totalizer, what it does, or the totalizer, it may be a system or equipment through which the betting money is collected and distributed proportionately. And for providing the services of facilitating wagering transactions, Royal Turf Club gets commission which is deducted and retained by the club for total bid value. For distributing money, etc., Royal Club gets a commission. The question here is that the provision of this service, that is facilitating the wagering contract or facilitating the betting transactions, whether it is supply or not. What is your answer? Is it a supply?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is a supply. Okay. Amounts to supply as the activities of race course are also included in the business. And you know, there is in fact only one exception to the course to this concept of course or furtherance of business. That is import of services for consideration. If services are imported for consideration, even if it's not in the course or furtherance of business, still it will be triggered as supply. Okay, what is totalizer concept? I have explained you earlier. Okay, now one more thing. Now, once we know this is supply, next concept is that supply should be leviable to GST. Once an activity or transaction qualifies supply, one needs to determine whether the same is leviable to GST. That means next concept we are saying whether it is taxable supply or not. Okay, so what we did first, we understood what is the meaning of business, and we have understood if it is the supply or transaction is made in the course or furtherance of business, it can be a supply. Having understood that, next concept is that we'll move to the next, that even if it is supply, you have to see whether it is taxable or supply. And we need to understand, for a supplier to attract GST, primarily two additional conditions need to be satisfied. Okay. So it may be in the course of furtherance of business. It may be for supply, but is it a taxable supply? So condition number one, we have to see. Supply must be made by a taxable person. What is coming to your mind if I say the meaning of taxable person? What do you understand by this?
Sir, he must be a registered member.
Okay, so this is coming to your mind when I say taxable person. You have understood he must have GST registration. He must have registered himself under GST. Okay, that is one thing, but there is one more angle to that also. We have not yet learned the meaning of definition of taxable person. I'll be explaining that. But right now, try to understand the person who has registered is a taxable person. Otherwise, also, who is liable to be registered. Let us say someone is liable to be registered, but still he has not registered. Okay, he has not registered, but he is liable to be registered. That person will also be treated as taxable person. Did you understand? So first thing you are saying that if he is registered under income, registered under GST law, then he is a taxable person. Okay, I agree. But one more additional thing also you need to remember, that is, even if he is not registered, but if he is liable to be registered, or under GST law, he was supposed to register himself, but he has not registered, that person will be still regarded as taxable person. Is it clear to you? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
This is one condition, that it should be a taxable person. The second condition is that the supply should be a taxable supply. Supply should be a taxable supply. That means there might be some exempted supply also. It should not be an exempted supply. Sometimes what happens, certain goods and services are exempted. They are not taxable. Or sometimes what happens, this GST exemption is provided to certain class of taxable persons. Okay, for certain class of taxable persons, it might be exempted. Then that is not a taxable. Okay, so supply must be made by a taxable person, and supply must be a taxable supply. These 2 points also you need to keep in mind. Now, first we will see what is the meaning of supply by a taxable person. A supplier to attract GST should be made by a taxable person. Therefore, if a supply between two non-taxable persons, so let us say we are finding out the supply between one person to another person, but both are non-taxable persons, that supply will not constitute a taxable supply because both are not taxable persons. Okay. A supply attracting GST can be made to a non-taxable person also. Okay, let me show you this example now. Now you see. Let us say here is a taxable person. He is supplying to a non-taxable person. Or he may also supply to a taxable person. Okay. And here supplier can be a non-taxable person also. When I say supplier is a taxable person means we are talking about the supplier's point of view. This person should be taxable. Okay, the recipient can be a non-taxable person, can be a taxable person, so it doesn't matter. Recipient can be non-taxable person, can be taxable. Supplier can be a taxable person, supplier can be non-taxable person. Okay. So supply is made by non-taxable person to non-taxable person. That's not a taxable supply. Supplier made by non-taxable person, taxable person. That is also not a taxable supply. So taxable supplier means supplier made by a taxable person. Maybe to a non-taxable person, maybe a taxable person. That's it. Are you getting? Are you getting it or not? So we have to consider it from the supplier's point of view. If supplier is a taxable person, recipient may be a non-taxable person, may be a taxable person. In either case, will be considered that supply as a taxable supply. Hope concept is clear. Therefore, if you read the last bullet point here, the restriction of being a taxable person is only on the supplier. The recipient can be either taxable person or not taxable person. Is it clear to you? Yes or no? Hope you have understood this concept. Now, we have discussed so many things about taxable person, and you have also told me your understanding about taxable person. Now, let us understand exactly what is the technical meaning of taxable person. Taxable person is a person who is registered or liable to be registered under section 22 or section 22. So both the concepts will be learning what is the process of registration, who are the people who are supposed to get themselves registered. All these things will be learning in our chapter registration. If the person is already registered, he's a taxable person. Or if he's liable to be registered, then he's also a taxable person. So therefore, even an unregistered person who is liable to be registered is a taxable person. He is an unregistered person. He has not registered himself. but he's liable to be registered. Let us say turnover is more than 40 lakh. Okay, he's a trader. Then he is liable to be registered under turnover criteria of supply of goods. He's liable to be registered, but he has not registered. But that person will still be regarded as taxable person. Okay. On the other hand, a person not liable to be registered. Okay, let us say someone who doesn't have any turnover is not liable to be registered, but still he has gone for voluntary registration. That's also possible. This law also allows that voluntarily you can register yourself, even if you are not liable to register. But the moment he has gone for voluntary registration, he becomes a taxable person. Is it clear to you? So a person not liable to be registered but has taken voluntary registration and got himself registered is also a taxable person. Okay. So once registration is there, he's always a taxable person. And the registration is not there, but if he's liable to be registered, he's also a taxable person. That is the concept. Hope you have understood. Okay. Now, friends, we have understood the concept of business and how consideration is relevant. That also we have understood. Concept of supply also largely we have understood. Okay. Then once it's supply, then it should be a taxable supply. It should be a taxable person. These are the two additional points we are discussing. Supply should be made by a taxable person. Who are these taxable person? Once that is clear, the next concept is that we'll be saying whether the supply itself is taxable. Okay. In order to attract GST, supply must be taxable. Then what is this taxable supply? You can broadly define as supply of goods and services or both, which is liable to tax under GST law. Okay. So that not that all supplies made by taxable person are liable to tax under GST. No, there are exemptions. Exemption may be provided to specified goods or services or to specified category of persons or entities for making so. If exemptions are not there, then they're liable to pay tax under GST. Okay, if exemptions are not there, then you may constitute them as taxable. Okay. So now I think you got a fair idea about business, consideration, supply, taxable person, and you also know how it is important that a supply should be made in the course or furtherance of business. And also, you know, from the very beginning, there is one exception to this general rule that supply made in the course and furtherance of business. The exception is that importation of services for a consideration. Meaning, if the services are imported for a consideration, even if it is not in the course or furtherance of business, still it will be considered as a supply. This is the only exception to the general concept of general condition of the course or furtherance of business. Exception is importation of services for a consideration. Okay, now you tell me, here is one more case I am giving you. Mr. A has received architect services for his house from an architect located in New York at an agreed consideration of $5,000. So as you can see, this is a case of import of not goods, import of what? Is it import of goods or something else?
Services.
Import of services. Consideration is there. Is it for a consideration or it is without consideration?
With consideration.
With consideration. Okay. And you see, it is not in the course or furtherance of business. Okay. It's not the business of Mr. A to provide this kind of services. Mr. A has received the services and he is not going to use it for its business. If this is so, is it a supply or not? What will be your answer? Let me clarify that it is not in the course or furtherance of business, but it is imposition of service. What do you say? Can anyone reply? What's your opinion? It doesn't matter if your answer is wrong. We want your participation. Can anybody tell me the answer? Okay, here is your answer. Import of service is a supply, even if it is not in the course of furtherance of business. Okay, that concept we had told you earlier. Import of services with consideration, even if it is not in the course of furtherance of business, is a supply. And also, there are certain activities or transactions which are, even if without consideration, they are treated as deemed supply. Right. Earlier also you have seen Schedule 1 contains all this list of activities. Okay. There are in fact 4 cases where activities can be without consideration, but still it can be regarded as supply. Okay, so these 4 concepts are popularly referred to as the concept of deemed supply. Okay, so the concept of deemed supply will be learning in your next session. So we're closing the session right now. We'll catch up very soon. Thanks a lot.